welcome to our second installment of Snap Material. Evan and I continue our discussion about the locations that were revealed in the Into the Quantum Realm season, along with our unlocks of the season as well. Hey, if you're a Spotify listener, make sure to find our episode on Spotify and vote in our poll for this episode, where we ask you what your favorite location is for Marvel Snap's Into the Quantum Realm season. We'd love to hear from you. For now, let's get to the episode. Well, let's go ahead and we'll move into locations here. So these are my favorite. This I think is what gives it that added element to be like, okay, I want to play this for at least the next 3 or 4 days. Not just the newer locations, which are great, but I also love it when they kind of use some of the older ones and are like, okay, featured location, guys, because at that point I'm jumping in to make me a deck that makes it at least a little bit more competitive. And I honestly think that was when I got up to 60, I was relying on some of these locations and using them to my benefit.
Yeah, and it gives you a chance to use, there's, the destroys decks, the discard decks, things like that, but it gives you a chance to use some that you just might not ever use any other time.
I agree.
So
I agree.
It really makes you kind of explore the space,
The first one here, though, I didn't really find a whole lot of use for it. And if you did, great. I want you to kind of explain. The Sacred Timeline. Hey, great name for a location, by the way. I love it. But first to fill this gets a copy of their opening hand. I couldn't figure out a way to make that useful. It was a rush to lay down 4 cards so that you could get a copy of what you had in your hand, which if you laid down 4 cards, the chances of what you had in your hand in order to do that were probably you probably had some lower cost stuff in there. But anyway, did you have a way of making that work at all?
Well, I would use Mr. Sinister, who makes a duplicate of himself, or the Brood, to try to fill that up. But once I did, I was like, okay, now what? Of one of my favorite locations that really can change the course of a hand is the Raft, where the first one to fill it up gets a 6 cost card, but for 0 cost. That can win or lose you the game sometimes. So that I always try to fill up, but you never know when it's coming. I mean, unless it's been a featured location, I don't really remember. But so that I'm always trying to fill up. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is just like that, except you get multiple cards. But it's all based on your first hand, which could be good, could be bad, could be somewhere in between. As cool as it is to fill up those locations, you fill them up too fast and you kind of run out of options.
Yeah, and you're stuck with 4 cards in there that may not be able to, hold up against somebody who's actually strategically playing just winning the location.
Yeah, you can win by sacrificing a location. You just got to win 2. But if you're putting all your resources into a location that you're not going to win, that can backfire on you sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I liked it. I built decks to try to take advantage of it, but after a while I was just like, I'm not sure this is it's not as good as the Raft.
I agree. All right, next up was the Quantum Tunnel. Now, I liked this one. When you play a card here, swap it with a card in your deck. Built-in Lockjaw location.
There you go.
I have Lockjaw decks. I think that was one of the first decks that I put together. Kind of, I don't go seeking out, and I don't think you do either. I don't know, but when you play against people, you learn. But I'm not going and seeking okay, here are the top Snap decks. Okay, let's see how I can work. One of the first few decks that I put together that I felt really worked for me was a Lockjaw deck. I would usually put Lockjaw in the center location. Quake would show up at one point, guaranteed. And then, you use your lower cost cards to bring out those heavy hitters. And this was an awesome location, in my opinion. You were able to just kind of do exactly that. Half of your deck could be lower cost cards, and the other half could be huge. And you could hopefully not get all of those in your beginning hand, all the big heavy hitters in your starting hand. But anyway, what'd you think of the Quantum Tunnel?
I liked it. I think the Lockjaw deck's a lot of fun, although sometimes I outsmart myself or don't quite smart myself enough. For some reason, I kept putting Giganto in a Lockjaw deck and then putting Lockjaw on the leftmost location. My only gripe with the Quantum Tunnel is that the effect when Lockjaw swaps a card is so cool, and the Quantum Tunnel effect is just like, nope, we'll just yank the card back. It's just, like I'm criticizing that they've done a great job on 90% of the effects. So I'm not trying to complain, but it's just I'm like, okay, yeah, here's that glow in the portal. I'm like, no, it just to borrow a word from my kids and make them cringe if they ever listen to this, it just yeeted the card back. Yeah, so that was my only complaint about the Quantum deck, is I was expecting a shimmery portal and I just got a zip.
Yeah, it would have been neat to see the card shrink.
Yeah,
and then a new one whoop pop up. It's completely different. Yeah, I mean, I dug it. Camp Lehigh is the next one on the list. Add a random 3-cost card to each player's hand. So this was okay. I mean, as far as locations go, this isn't the worst. This isn't
adds to that random factor that makes it a lot of fun.
Right. This isn't Dream Dimension. This is something that will work in your benefit. So you're not going to hate this location.
I just shook my fist, Jesse. This is an audio medium, but I shook my fist when you mentioned the Dream Dimension.
I hate Dream
Dimension. The Mindscape. That I get the Mindscape and the Dream Dimension mixed up. I don't like either of them. The Mindscape makes me even angrier.
Yeah, so Camp Lehigh, I'm sure that I got a few cool random cards out of Camp Lehigh. Mainly built Quinjet collector deck around this, so I could get collector out there as soon as Camp Lehigh shot that thing to me. If I had Quinjet out there, it cost me one less. So that's kind of the deck that I rested on during this time.
I don't think I got anything real specific for that. I know the best I came up with, we messaged about a little bit, was Silver Surfer, since he boosts 3-cost cards, that would add to it a little, I suppose.
All right, and the next and final one was Quantum Realm. When you play a card here, set its base power to 2. Now, I tried. This is another one where I was like, okay, how could I make this work? And I essentially what I landed on was, all right, lower cost cards, great. That's going to be, I mean, if they have a lower a lower power, you can boost them up to 2, although that's, unless you have a bunch of 1s, laying out Sunspot there is immediately going to get them up to 2. Deadpool might be a good one too if you're doing that. But mainly what I was like is I was like, okay, Blue Marvel. At least at that point, if you got some cards out there on at 2, everybody else on the other side is going to have a card out there that's at 2 power as well. But if you can somehow boost them up in some way, Blue Marvel would do that. And if it's 1-cost cards, you can have Kazar out there, which is a combo you see all the time. But anyway, that's kind of what I landed on with the Quantum Realm. What about you?
With the Quantum Realm, I noticed that I kept mixing it up with the Quantum Tunnel and would expect a card to switch, and then its power would just become 2. I did not get a lot of Quantum Realm, although I did play it today, so I tried to drop Luke Cage on there, 2-cost, 1 power, tremendous ongoing effect.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bumped him down to 0. I'd still play him.
Do you have Hazmat?
Hazmat. Oh yeah. Luke Cage I finally got, and Hazmat went from never in my deck to frequently in my deck.
I've never pulled Hazmat at all yet. Hazmat's been around since forever. All right, so there's our locations from Into the Quantum Realm. Let's talk about unlocks real quick, because Evan and I, we just threw this show together. We weren't exactly taking notes for last season, but I do have some significant unlocks. I did get the Dan Hip variant of Spectrum. So what do you think of the Dan Hip cards?
Oh, I think they're a lot of fun. That used to be all I used my gold on, was the variants, so I could build up a pixel deck or something like that. But
right
now that they give you some more options of what to pick up, I don't do that quite as much. I did unlock the Brew variant for the Brood. Don't care a bit about the Brood in the comics. Love Brew, the character.
Brew's the one running around with the tuxedo on?
Yeah. He's the civilized Brood that only occasionally tries to kill everybody.
Okay. I have that variant. I didn't know what in the world was going on. It's like, well, okay, at some point there's a story I missed.
That's from to get back to the source material roots. I don't think this is where he was introduced, but where I met him was Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men.
Okay.
Where Wolverine decided Cyclops was getting too militant, so he reopened the school, named it in honor of Jean Grey, and became the headmaster.
Okay. All right.
And Brew was one of the students. He's a mutant Brood because he's not part of the hive mind, and he's just a kind and friendly little genius who occasionally can bite a chunk out of somebody.
Awesome.
Yeah, that character's a lot of fun. So I got that, even though I hardly ever play the Brood, just because I love that version of it.
Yeah,
but the Dan Hip ones. Didn't you say? Isn't he the guy that does kind of the Teen Titans Go style art?
Right. Yeah, he's.
Yeah,
I think
those are a lot of fun. I have a few of his. Okay. I think I got the Captain Marvel one that you mentioned, and I'm trying to think. Oh, I got a Medusa Dan Hip.
Okay. I unlocked Ms. Marvel's variant, or I should say Captain Marvel's variant, Ms. Marvel.
I think you've beaten me with that one a couple times.
I went on a run for the longest time. It was Doctor Doom, Ms. Marvel, Doctor Doom, Captain Marvel, because it seemed like I could always swing a game into my favor with that combo. But yeah, this Ms. Marvel variant, I think this was one that I bought out of the shop. And just because I was like, okay, that's classic stuff right there. The black costume with the lightning bolt on it looked awesome. Wanted to get that one. I unlocked Baron Mordo, which I didn't think I would use a whole lot, but turns out I am. I have a disrupt deck that I enjoy having him in there, where he makes you pull, the person draws a card, but it's made a 6 energy card no matter what. And that's
there's just some cards you do not want to spend 6 energy on.
They could be pretty useful.
I got him too. I liked him better than I thought. Baron Mordo, the character, I have little use for, but I think we talked about the first episode we did, just kind of chatting about Snap, how most of this leans more toward the comics than the movies.
Yes.
Although I love, there is a Dan Hip Wong variant that's movie Wong that I like, and I would love to see a movie variant for Baron Mordo, because Baron Mordo, the comic book character, I'm like, he's just another angry guy who hates somebody. Baron Mordo in the movie is played by, I'll probably butcher his name, but Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is just one of my favorite actors. It's one of my favorite people to see on screen. And his Baron Mordo bears little resemblance to the one in the comics, and it's one of those cases where I don't care, because I like that Baron Mordo. So he's so much more interesting to me than anything I've read with Baron Mordo in the comics. Now, Have I read a lot of Baron Mordo in the comics? No. I'm sure, maybe somebody's listening to this going, how dare you not remember Doctor Strange number 137 when Baron Mordo's puppy died, and we got to see what, I'm sure there could be good stories out there, but that's just a character that never connected with me. But Chiwetel Ejiofor is the man. And then you saw him as the operative in Serenity.
That's what I was going to say. He was in the Serenity movie. Yeah, what a great villain. Baron Mordo, right into the old disrupt deck, and then shortly after that, I get Goose.
Yes.
I had played against. Sometimes it drove me nuts. I didn't see him a whole lot. Goose wasn't something that I'd seen a whole lot after here. Well, I should say as games went on. But yeah, throwing Goose in there where nobody can play I think it's 4 or greater on the location, makes things pretty fun, especially when you got Captain Marvel on that same deck.
And occasionally I've had somebody lay down Goose, or maybe I did ill-advisedly, when I've got like the big house, which has its location with the same effect, or the Sanctum Sanctorum. So, really limiting your options.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Goose is fun, but not one I use as much as I would think I would.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of times I'll play Goose and then try to play a 4 or 5 cost card and be like, what the heck?
Yeah. I was like, dang it. What did I do that for? This unlock, I can find very little use for, unless you are trying to put a deck together that has just completely the same power across the board. But that's got to be a hard thing to do for a deck. And that's Cerebro.
It is a hard thing to do. I've tried it because I've been beaten by decks like that more than I expected.
Right.
I'll be like, I've got this locked up, and then all of a sudden, like, wait, they were all 2 and 3. What happened here?
What happened here? Yeah, I think what I end up doing is I somehow either a location gives somebody more power, or one of my cards ends up getting 1 power more than it should, and then Cerebro's only affecting that 1 card. So I haven't really tried to build anything around Cerebro. I know there were decks early on that were built around Cerebro, but yeah, I don't see it very often anymore. So I don't really have any use for that one.
I used Cerebro when I was big on the Mr. Negative deck.
Okay.
Get you a Mr. Negative, reverse him, then play Jane Foster to yoink all the zero cost cards into your hand. That's the main time I used it, but it just gradually got phased out because Ironheart gives a permanent boost to 3 cards. And is the same cost and point value. Although I do want at some point, I would love to get that variant where it's the Sentient Cerebro from like this obscure late 90s X-Men storyline.
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's
I might have
with arms and legs.
Okay, I'd have to look that up. That sounds crazy.
It looks cool, and it scratches that nostalgia itch. But yeah, it's one that I'm like, I should probably put Cerebro in here, and then it just ends up getting phased out of some of my decks because it doesn't. Like I said, Ironheart has a similar effect, but can affect more cards.
Yeah,
randomly can get relaunched by Odin or doubled up by Wong. So
right. I unlocked a variant I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, In-Hyuk Lee variant of Green Goblin. I started using Green Goblin quite a bit after I unlocked Green Goblin, and then
I noticed.
This man, do I love when the Space Throne shows up. Boy, I will use that Green Goblin in a heartbeat.
And it's less risky than Hobgoblin.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's what I forgot to mention about Quantum Tunnel and Lockjaw is I learned that even if you send Hobgoblin over to the other side, he still disappears for Lockjaw or Quantum.
Yes, he does. He'll do the whole animation, but he's coming back. Yeah, the variant, the Green Goblin variant looks cool. I mean, it's a little more realistically rendered Green Goblin, in my opinion. So I got that.
I'm reminded of the words of Weird Al Yankovic. He's wearing that dumb Power Ranger mask, but he's scarier without it on.
That's right. And then I got a blueprint variant of Quinjet. My first blueprint, I think, was of Hulkbuster, which I thought was really cool. And then the blueprint variant for Quinjet looks really neat. The animation for it, when you bump it up to animated, like all the little things on the bottom are like kind of moving back and forth. Like there's these little gauges and stuff. I love the way that looks. I have plenty of decks. One of the most fun decks that I built this season was a Quinjet deck.
Yeah, Quinjet may be the most disproportionate for interest as a character or feature in comics and usefulness and fun in the game.
I agree. You might be right.
It's a Quinjet. Although that Ghost Rider Quinjet variant looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, dude, it definitely does. All right, how about you, man? What'd you unlock? What'd you get this season?
I'm a little fuzzy on when this started, but I think near the beginning of this season is when I got two that I'd been trying to get for a while in rapid succession, which is Luke Cage and Psylocke. Yeah, Psylocke I wanted for my Mr. Negative deck to try to get those reversed a little earlier. Mm-hmm. Of course, what I found is that the key to a Mr. Negative deck is not basing it on Mr. Negative because it's just one card. So I throw Thor in there. I use Thor almost as much as you use Quake, but I wanted that. Psylocke, I mean, obviously she's useful. I haven't used her as much as I thought, but Luke Cage has become like my go-to guy. Right. Even if you don't play him with Hazmat or Typhoid Mary, I mean, I'm afraid they're going to nerf him like they did the leader because, I mean, the one that surprises me is if you get hit by Scorpion or you get hit by Scorpion twice, if you've got Luke Cage out there, once you play those cards, they pop right back up to their original.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I mean, Necrosha, Jotunheim, the Sewer.
It negates all
what's
that.
What's the other one? Negative Zone.
Yeah, Negative Zone.
He resists all of those. He restores what you lose with Scorpion, and then with Hazmat, you know, he keeps you from losing anything with Hazmat and Typhoid Mary. So and it's just the 2 costs, so really effective. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't bump up his cost or down his power or something.
The chances of them trying to nerf him, I don't think are too high. I understand. Because you use him an awful lot. If he's causing you to win a whole lot, then okay, maybe so. But I've got him.
Yeah.
I just don't have Hazmat to go along with him. So I don't really have anything to make him extremely useful. Although playing Rogue against somebody that has Luke Cage and Hazmat, that has saved me. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
I really don't know how many times.
Yeah, he's useful, but he's not. I don't know that the leader. I think the problems with the leader were a little overstated, but maybe that's just because I'm not very good at it. So when I was winning with the leader, I'm like, hey, I'm just, you know.
Oh, I beat so many people with the leader when I got him finally.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! And then when they nerfed him, so
specifically, but they were on my targeted list with tokens, and I got them both in rapid succession.
Nice.
May have been when I got that Deadpool bundle, so got an influx of tokens. I did use gold to get the Brew variant, not because it's a card I used, but I don't know why the Brood annoy me so much. I've read good stories with the Brood, but I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want the Brood to be on my side, you know. So, but I love Brew. I've read a lot of fun stuff with him. Rock Slide I got as a prize.
Use him a lot?
No, I don't use him much, but I'm holding him and my man Korg in reserve for when I finally get Darkhawk.
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah.
So I got some pixel variants of just as random prizes of Cable and Doctor Strange. I keep wanting to do an all pixel deck. I'm honestly not sure. It feels like I should have enough, but none of them work very well together.
I have seen one person use a pixel deck against me, which I thought was really cool. Actually, I don't think it was a pixel deck. I'm sorry, it was a chibi deck. They had chibi versions of all of the cards.
I think I played somebody like that.
I thought it was pretty neat. I mean, I thought the deck was cool to watch each one of those cards come out. And I'm like, oh, it's another chibi variant. Look at that. But
and then while I was looking at saving up for Silver Surfer, it was pretty funny. And I don't know if it's just I've been playing long enough that these were, because I know some people who have already had these for a while, but some of the others that were on kind of my wish list were Taskmaster, Ronan the Accuser, and Moon Knight. And darned if I didn't get them all in about a week, just as
no kidding. Nice.
Yeah. Although for the life of me, I can't remember what I wanted. I mean, I know I could figure out a Ronan deck, but there was some specific card or combination that I was like, this would be really good with Ronan. And when I got him, I have no idea what it was.
Ronan is it's all dependent upon how many cards are in the opponent's hand, right?
Right.
So they get like plus
so
2
if they're
for
playing
every
like
card.
Double Dinosaur.
Yeah. You got a way to match that.
Yeah.
What would be is there a card out there that puts cards in their hands? I guess
actually with the upcoming season, there's a card in the upcoming season that would work really well.
Yeah, there would.
And then if you get that Machine World location where your opponent gets a copy of your card, having Ronan in the deck would make me a little more or a less trepidatious to play something there.
Ronan and Maximus. Maximus
yes,
has them
the
draw
one.
2 cards.
Yes.
And then I guess Baron Mordo would kind of work too. That makes them draw.
Yeah. Which is actually a good. Sometime we could do a whole thing probably on the unlikely combinations, like I mentioned, MODOK and Morbius. But Ronan and Maximus working together, because Ronan's been tied to the Inhumans too, so that actually makes some sense in the comics.
Okay. That's cool. Well, all right. Any other cards there? I think you ran through those 3. You mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned the pixel variant. I know you said you got some pixel variants, but I don't know if you mentioned you also got the Odin pixel variant, which I also got just very recently this season.
Did get that one, and I'm not sure if it was in this season or maybe the tail end of last season, but I got Dracula, who I liked for a discard deck. But honestly, he didn't last in my discard deck very long. I've got another more all-around deck that I use him in and have a lot more luck with him. He was very hit or miss for me in discard. Got another deck that's just kind of trying a few different things, and he usually works out pretty well for me there.
Okay, all right. Any other popular decks?
I'd love to tell you about it, but now that we're playing each other, like you notice, I haven't sent you decks that I'm using as much as I did when we were, unlikely to cross paths.
That's right.
I would send Jesse, like, hey, this is the deck I'm using. And now it's like, yeah, I got a card I like. Maybe I'll show it to you sometime.
Hold those close to your vest. Don't be showing your secrets there. Any other popular decks this past season that you played?
I did a lot of stuff with Luke Cage. But yeah, like I said, toward the second half of the season, I just wasn't making much progress. And going back to basically my old discard deck with a tweak here and there is where I really got on a roll. Although I think that might have had more to do with getting bumped down to the lower ranks when this season restarted than.
Yeah. Did you notice? I mean, did you notice like in the lower parts of if you were bumped down some ranks, I noticed that like some of the people I were playing were making some of the craziest, ridiculous, like, why in the world did you do that?
Yeah. Kind of I had one just the other day. I can't remember the specifics, but I was like, well, I don't want to retreat. I got a chance, but it's highly unlikely. And they literally put all their eggs in one basket. They just piled cards into one location. And they slaughtered me at that location, but you gotta have 2 to win.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.